And here to share her essay is our first place winner. Her name is Fatimah Naraghi. She's a senior at Ames High School. Her essay was entitled, Finding My Voice from Silence to Service. Let me get this for you first. Yeah, I'll give you this for you first. And she gets a $500 gift card.
I learned early on that standing up for something often means standing alone, a lesson rooted in my family's struggles under Iran's totalitarian government. In that world, expressing rights as basic as those governed by our First Amendment is nothing more than a distant dream. My parents' sacrifices remind me daily that I now have the freedom that they could only imagine, the freedom to speak, to question, and to challenge. But knowing I had that freedom didn't make it any easier to use. In high school cheerleading, unspoken rules often shaped more than just routines. When formations were assigned, a clear pattern emerged. Those who fit the traditional mold were placed front and center, while I, a Middle Eastern girl who didn't match that image, was consistently relegated to the back. Again, no matter my effort or skill. Opinions that challenged the norm were quickly dismissed, and cheerleading had once been my sanctuary, a place where I could excel and feel a sense of belonging. But over time, however, the inequities became impossible to ignore. I faced a choice: remain silent and accept things as they were, or speak out and face the consequences. I chose to speak. I called attention to the favoritism and the unspoken expectation to blend in, hoping to spark change not only for myself, but for others who also felt impacted by mistreated. Instead, I found myself suspended from the competition team. The sport I have devoted years of my hard work to was abruptly taken from me. Teammates distanced themselves, my confidence crumbled, and I found myself isolated with nothing but anger to keep me company. I began to question everything. Why had my family sacrificed so much for me to feel this way in a country built on the principles of freedom? At my lowest point, Dr. King's words came to me. Words I had often read, but now only began to understand. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. His belief that love and empathy are forms of strength resonated deeply. Yet, at the time, those words still felt out of reach. All I felt was anger. How could I find love for those who had turned their backs on me? Months of reflection led me to this realization. I had been viewing the situation through the narrow lanes of my own pain. Dr. King's words started to take on a new meaning. My teammates, like me, were struggling in their own ways. Silence wouldn't change the injustice, but neither would clinging on to that anger. Love big meant finding the courage to extend empathy, even when it felt like the hardest thing to do. This shift in perspective ignited something within me. I had lost cheerleading, but I had found something way more profound: my voice. I discovered a passion for advocacy and policy, realizing that my voice was meant for more than just cheerleading. It was meant to fight for those who, like me, had been silenced. I carried this realization with me on my new role as a student representative on my school board. I vividly remember standing before the board, pleading to be heard about the inequities on my cheer team. Now, sitting on the other side of the table, I had the privilege of using my position to uplift other change makers. My role transformed from one of personal ambition to one of service, and I am determined to keep growing. Dr. King's legacy reminds me that leadership is about service, not power. His philosophy of servant leadership guided my approach as I advocated for policy changes to create a more inclusive environment for students in my district. His dream of just a society inspires me to look beyond personal struggles and focus on creating systems that uplift everyone. And today, I know that comfort is overrated. Staying quiet might have been easier, but it would have allowed the status quo to persist. By speaking up, I empowered myself and inspired others to break free from the constraints of fear. Dr. King's legacy reminds me that true freedom isn't about speaking your mind. It's about choosing to love big and using that voice for others. What once felt catastrophic became a moment of redirection, guiding me towards a life more fulfilling than I could have ever imagined. Thank you.